Welcome to the Massage Life podcast. I'm Melissa Pearson, registered massage therapist, and I'm here with my husband Jordan, who is a chartered professional accountant. And today we're chatting about reassuring our clients and choosing helpful words.
Nice. Sounds exciting. That's not what you had said before.
It's not? Oh.
You said we were talking about comforting your clients.
Well, yeah, I just picked some better words.
Like
See,
putting a blankie
I was
on them.
choosing better words.
Oh, yes. Great. That sounds fun.
No, today we're just talking about like how our words really matter and that we need to be cautious about the words we choose with our clients. And also we need to focus on client-centered care. Sometimes we get so caught up in like, oh, we need to assess this thing, or, oh, we need to look at this modality, and we forget that there's like a real person standing in front of us.
100%. And after 16 years of marriage, I've learned that words really do matter.
Yeah?
Right? Yeah.
You want to share some words you've shared with me lately that I was angry about?
I don't remember anything. I'm sure you have a long list of things that I've said and done.
I write them in my journal.
Yeah.
Angrily scrawl them in my journal so I can bring them up at later conversations to use against you.
You have done that before, but not so much anymore.
What is this? Yes, this podcast doubles as marriage counseling.
We have a great marriage. Life is good.
We've been married for how long now? 15 years? 16 years? No, 15.
We're coming up on 16.
Right.
Yeah, how do
It's
you
good
not
times.
know? Well, let me just write that in my journal. Melissa forgot when we got married. Yeah, it'll be 16 years in November.
Yeah, look at us.
Anyways.
It's so old now.
So you had an experience last Sunday that kind of, it's got you thinking about a lot of this stuff. Mm-hmm. So why don't you share that story?
Yeah, so a week ago today, I was driving home from my in-laws.
My parents.
Yes,
Yeah.
Jordan's parents.
So we usually have family dinner over there on
Yeah.
Sunday, right? We'll do anything for a free meal.
But yeah, you and I had taken separate cars. So I was just in the van with the boys. And
Right, we had taken separate cars, not because we were mad at each other.
because we need marriage counseling.
No, I was finishing up Amy's course.
Yeah.
And so I was over there with Abby finishing that up, and
Yeah.
then you came with the boys.
We were just both busy that day. Anyway,
Yeah. We don't need to explain to these
tell people our whole life story here. Anyways, it was just me and my two boys in the car. And I was driving along, minding my own business. I was at a red light when the car in front of me was making a left turn. They had a green light turning left, and they struck a pedestrian who was crossing in the crosswalk, but they just didn't yield to the pedestrian. Like, I don't know what they were doing. I don't know if they were texting or what was happening. I mean, it was like the McDonald's parking lot. Maybe they're eating. I don't know.
Yeah.
You can
Well,
speculate.
it's kind of a weird intersection.
It is
right?
kind of a weird intersection.
It's not an intersection that you would expect a lot of pedestrians to cross.
Like it's a busy street, so...
Anyways,
Anyway, it was a weird situation. So it was really scary because, this had happened, and I was like back a ways because I was at the red light, and I was kind of panicking, like, oh, should I run over there? But I didn't want to like run into traffic. Anyways, I just waited a second until my light turned green, then I pulled forward. And I just recently did my first aid certification, like my recert. And so I'm like, ooh, like, not that I was excited. Like, I felt so nervous and worried about this person. Like, that's the scariest experience. But like, I bust out my first aid kit and stuff and come over. And yeah, there were a few other people out there. The driver of the vehicle came out to help the person.
That's good.
And yeah, it's not like it was a hit and run. I was telling someone this story, and they're like, was it a hit and run? I was like, no. Like, thankfully the driver stopped.
Right.
But yeah, it was really interesting because I noticed that all the people standing around, like maybe there was 7 or 8 people, they were all kind of like talking amongst themselves. And like, of course, one person was on call with 911, so that was good. But it seemed like no one was really like totally paying attention to this guy. And it was a young kid. He was about 17 or 18 is my guess. And no one seemed to really be like talking to him. Mm-hmm. And he looked really scared, obviously. So he was still conscious. He didn't like hit his head or anything. And so...
Yeah, he wasn't hit very hard.
It wasn't... Yeah, I think the driver tried to stop, and he also tried to dodge him. So... Yeah,
but it was still a startling experience.
Yeah, I think that was it more than anything. I suspect that he either... I don't know if he broke his leg. He was complaining that it was really sore, his hip, and that it was like tingly and numb. So I don't know what is the extent of his injuries were. We didn't really move him,
were you the first person that went up to him? Like, I'm just trying to...
There were already 2 or 3 people there because like the driver got out right away, and I had to wait for that light to turn green, my light. So it was like I was like 1 minute to the scene. But anyways, people were kind of, talking amongst themselves, like, what happened? They're talking like, oh, is the ambulance on their way? And like, they're all kind of talking to each other. They did ask him a few questions, but I was like, nobody's like reassuring.
And he's
this
laying on the
guy.
ground?
He's laying on the middle of the road.
Okay. Interesting.
And so I did like my first aid stuff. So at first I introduce myself to him and ask if, I tell him that I'm certified in first aid and does he want help? And like this little script you're supposed to follow.
Right.
And then I like got gloves on and I asked his permission if I could do just a pat down. I was worried that maybe he was bleeding or something. And no one was like doing anything really for him. I was like, maybe he's bleeding and you guys don't even know, like underneath. So I had to do like just a physical check, make sure he didn't have any like, that he wasn't bleeding. Anyway, so after that point, everyone's just kind of like waiting around for the ambulance. Everyone's just kind of standing around, like waiting for the ambulance to come. Like, no one's going to talk to this kid. And so I kind of took it upon myself to reassure him. And so not that I, spent tons of time like lathering him with comfort or anything, but I just said to him, like, we're here for you. Like, help is on its way. We're all here to help you and support you. Like, you're not alone. I also got him a blanket. In my little first aid kit, I had a blanket and like covered him with a blanket. So he felt even like it actually was a really hot day. Like, he probably didn't need the blanket, but it is part of when you go into shock, your body temperature can lower. So that you are supposed to cover them with a blanket. But even just like to help, like he's on the middle of the road. Like, that can't be very comfortable. Yeah. So even just like the weight of a blanket might help him just feel calmed down a little bit. So I like put a blanket over him and just tried to reassure him until help came.
And you did this because you could tell that he was a bit panicked and flustered?
Yeah, so he was actually trying to call his dad, and he couldn't get a hold of him, and I think that was really adding to his stress. Right? Like my parents don't know I'm like laying on the road, like that I've been hit by this car, and so he couldn't get a hold of anyone, and he finally did. And just hearing his voice too when he finally reached his dad, he was just like, Dad, I've been hit by a car. And then I could tell the person on the end was like, what? Because he had to repeat it a couple times. Yeah, the person was like, what are you talking about? And so
he's probably the family jokester too.
Yeah, it'd be you.
Sure. Yeah.
That would be you. Yes, you're the worst.
Yeah, if I called you and said, Melissa, I got hit by a car, you'd be like, okay, so I'll see you soon. Bye.
Yeah. You are the worst. You're like the boy who cried wolf. Even when you got COVID, you're like, I have COVID. I was like, yeah, right, you don't. And
you didn't believe
me. Yeah, you had to like show me the test. I was like, oh, okay. Even then I was like, maybe he drew a line on here. I don't know. So funny. So that also I was like noticing, okay, he's like having a lot of anxiety here with this phone call and everything. Right. And so I just tried to like still touch base with him, talk to him, like wait, because it took a good couple minutes until the ambulance arrived. And then once they arrived, like I let them take over. Obviously, they're like everyone move out of the way. Like,
they said that?
Oh yeah, they weren't rude at all. Like, of course the paramedics are amazing, but they were like, everyone needs to take like a big step back because everyone was like gathered around, right? And they're like, move out of the way, like we're taking over now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, obviously let them take over. But yeah, it just got me thinking about how I think people, and myself included, we sometimes forget about like that there's a problem. There's a person behind the problem, right? Like, I think we get so caught up in like fixing the problem and like finding these solutions. It's like, we forget there's a real person and like that person needs to be cared for.
Right.
And so it's a simple thing to do. Like, how easy is it to just reassure someone? But like, why do we not do that more often? And it got me thinking about how it relates to the world of massage. And I think we sometimes do the same thing. Someone comes in and we're like, ooh, a puzzle to solve, right? Mm-hmm. They're like, ooh, I have this shoulder pain. And we're like, ooh, we bust out all the assessments. Like, I'm not saying don't do the assessments. Do the assessments. It's great.
Yeah, it's
like,
important.
But we do all these things and we kind of forget there's a real person here who's experiencing a lot of pain or discomfort or loss of job or like who knows what full experiences they're going through. And we forget to just reassure them. Like, I think that's one of the coolest tools that we have is reassuring people. And we get a whole hour to do it. So maybe you don't get a chance right during the assessment to be like, it's going to be okay or whatever. But you have the whole hour and you can talk to them throughout that treatment about how like you're here to help and support them and like it's going to be okay and blah, 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 like things that we can say to help them feel comforted and reassured. And I mean, the mind is a powerful place. If we can convince them like it's going to be all right, then I think that can do amazing things for our clients.
Right. Isn't that a big part of what Eric talks about in his persistent pain
Yes,
course?
yeah.
The biopsychosocial model?
Yeah, it's a big part of it, yeah. And I actually pulled up some quotes from them that I wanted to share.
From Eric's course?
Yeah, so it's just from his blog, but
right.
He talks about the same things that we have on Online Wellness, the pain course, where he talks about, the biopsychosocial theories behind pain, and it's specifically about chronic pain. And so he said, being an evidence-informed therapist starts with our language. How we communicate is a reflection of how we think, which impacts how we treat our patients. And then I also have a really good quote from Jamie Johnston. So he also talks about this in the therapeutic exercise course that we have.
Right.
And also about like reassuring people and how we can navigate that. Because when people are in a lot of pain, like they're scared to do things, and we need to reassure them like it's going to be okay. Once you rule out red flags, like obviously if they have some big crazy condition, then you shouldn't be like, oh, it's fine. Like that's a problem too. Reassuring to the point where you're like dismissing people, that's not okay.
Yeah, it goes
either.
both ways.
Goes both ways.
Right.
And so this is what Jamie said. He said, if we start to use language and descriptions that reassure and empower the patient, we can start to positively influence their pain beliefs. Once red flags are ruled out, we can reassure the patient how things should get better over the next few weeks because the symptoms are benign in nature and this issue quite often resolves itself. More importantly, reassure they do not have a serious disease. I mean, everyone like Googles, I'm cutting into his quote here. Everyone like Googles, their condition and is always like, oh my goodness, I have cancer, I'm going to die, right? Like everyone does that like WebMD freak out.
Right. Like this weird lump I have on my leg and it's like, yep, I'm dead.
Yeah, I'm going to die tomorrow. Yeah.
How crazy would it be if I did die tomorrow?
You're not going to die. Now I have to practice my comforting techniques. You're okay, Jordan. I'm here for you. Okay, so he continues on by saying, along with this, we should endeavor to offer some level of education to the patient about their pain and how to self-manage. Otherwise, a dependence on the therapist could develop, where the patient always needs to be taken care of. We need to start changing the narrative patients are given. So I love that, like so powerful.
Yeah, I love these guys, Eric and Jamie.
Oh, so knowledgeable. Like I could listen to them forever. Yeah, they have their own podcast as well, which we can link in the description. And then,
for sure.
Yeah, their resources. And
we should have them on our podcast.
We should. That's on the to-do list.
I don't know if we're cool enough for Eric and Jamie.
So yeah, I was trying to think of some examples of like how to reassure people or things not to say or things that are better to say. Because sometimes it's just like changing your words slightly. It's not like a big change sometimes. It's just like which words are better to say.
Right. There was a chart that you were looking for. Did you find it?
I didn't find it. Yeah, I saw, if anyone knows about the chart, let me know. But there's a chart that says like, instead of saying this, choose this instead. And it has words that are like, could be damaging to clients and then words that are more helpful.
Right.
And yeah, it was awesome. It's like, oh, maybe I do say some of those things. And we just, I don't know. Some words are hard. Words are hard for some people. And it can be tricky. But this is some ideas I thought of. So on the dismissing pain side of things, sometimes I've heard therapists say things like, oh, I've seen clients with tighter muscles than you, or like, oh, don't worry, like I've seen patients like in way more pain. Like you're not the worst.
You've heard therapists say that? Have you?
Yeah. I feel like I've maybe even said, not say like, oh, I've seen people with more pain. I've probably said, like, people are saying, oh, how's my shoulder? Like, they want to know what it feels like to me as a therapist, right? They're like, is it really tight? And I'll say like, oh, it's not the worst I've ever seen. It's okay. And I'm trying to be reassuring.
Interesting.
But I think it can sometimes come off as dismissive. Like, oh, don't worry. Like,
yeah, it's not that bad.
It's not that bad.
Yeah.
Whereas it's like, this could be their worst they've ever felt.
Yeah.
We shouldn't dismiss their experience.
Right.
Also, that's very subjective, like how it feels to the therapist. There's been studies on that as far as like even finding trigger points and stuff. Like therapists are actually kind of bad at that. And as far as like what we're actually feeling and what someone's normal tissue might be like, it might feel, it might feel really ropey into that area or something, but it doesn't mean that it's pathological. It doesn't mean there's actually a problem in that area.
Right.
So when you start freaking people out like, oh, there's something like a big lump here, like that could be a problem. And it's like, or it's just they're normal.
Or just because a muscle is tight doesn't necessarily mean that there's pain in through that muscle.
It's not causing any dysfunction.
I'm not a RMT. I don't know, right? But
yeah.
I've had tight muscles before. Like I have tight muscles right now, and they're not sore. There's no pain there, right? So I think we automatically assume that this muscle is tight. You must be sore.
Or like when we're massaging, sometimes people will say, oh wow, that hurts there. Like when you press there, that hurts. And we all of a sudden think there's something going on in that area, that there's some dysfunction in through that area.
Right.
It's like, if you poke someone hard enough anywhere, it's going to hurt. Right? Like pinch yourself on the arm right now. Like,
no.
Okay, I'll pinch you then. Right? That would hurt. Does it mean you have a problem there? No, it means I just pinched you hard.
Yeah, I do have a problem. You pinched me.
Yeah.
Maybe you should stop.
Stop pinching me. Oh, geez. Okay, so instead of like blowing off their pain, like, you're fine. Something better to say would be, I'm sorry you're going through this. I'm here to help.
Yeah, acknowledging their pain.
Acknowledging it and saying, and not just leaving them hanging. Like, I'm here to help you.
Yeah, they've come to you for that.
Yeah, you have resources here.
Right.
Yeah. And then, so on the flip side, instead of exaggerating their chronic pain along with them, you could reassure them with words like, and this is actually from Jamie Johnston. He said, reassure them with words like, since we know pain is a safety and a protection mechanism, your tissues have been protected for a long time now, which puts them in a safe place. Your chances of re-injuring is minimal. So, yeah, we already chatted about this, but those chronic pain patients are sometimes scared to work on therapeutic exercise and that because they're scared of re-injuring the area.
Right.
But we know that from research that it's one of the best things for them is to move those joints, right? And so just reassuring them that, yes, your body's sending pain signals to your brain, but that protective mechanism, it's been going on for long enough that the chances of there being an actual like injury to the area still is quite slim, and that by moving it is going to help that area. So just reassuring them that it's okay.
It's interesting. I'm just going back to something you said earlier, just talking about how therapists are not really good at being able to identify trigger points. Is that what you said? Yeah. So I've had experiences receiving massage where therapists have said, "Oh, your shoulders are really tight," or "This muscle is really tight. Like you must be really sore in through here." And it's like, actually, no. I feel great. Right. And so you can kind of look silly, right, by making assumptions about the person's experience based on what you think you're feeling.
Yeah.
Right. And so you have to be careful.
It's hard because I feel like a lot of therapists want to be seen as like they know what they're doing, right? Or that there's some magical, like they have these magical hands and they can find these problems, like this little scavenger hunt where we have to like find these issues. And yeah, there's been research that like we're actually not that great at doing it. Not just massage therapists, all manual therapists. It's not very reliable.
Great, we just lost the 4 people that listened to this.
No, we need to look at these things honestly, right? Like those were hard pills for me to swallow when I started doing more research into like evidence-based stuff. It is a hard pill to swallow. Like, oh, maybe I don't really know what I'm doing. And it's not that we don't know what we're doing. It's just that we put too much confidence in that.
Yeah, you put too much pressure on yourself as well, right? That it's like, okay, this person is coming to me with this problem. Like, it's now my job to like fix them. Yeah. Right? And it's like, you may not be able to fix them, but what you can do is be a supportive person and do your best to, give them the best care that you can.
Yeah. And pain is it's so much more than this mechanical thing. There's so many factors that come into play with pain. And a lot of it's neurological. And so it's like, I can't feel like these overfiring nerves, right? How would I be able to feel that with my hands? Right. They think it's just, these muscles will feel so different. Clients often think that these muscles will feel so different. And so they expect me to say, oh yes, I can feel where your pain is. I can't feel where your pain is. And so I don't comment on that very often when I'm massaging people. I'm not like, oh, it feels weird here. Oh, this feels like, I don't comment on really what I'm feeling. I ask the client a lot of times what they're feeling. That's way more important. Yeah. I'll be working in an area and I'll say, how does this feel to you right here? Right? And then that gives me so much more information. Right. So it's just about like changing our perspective a little.
Yeah, and changing our language. It got me thinking about, so every Monday night in our home, we have something called the Over 8 Club. And so our daughter, she's 9, so she gets to stay up late after I put the boys to bed. And we work on our goals. Okay, so that's one thing that we do every Monday. We set some goals. Well, we have goals that we've already set for the year, and then we just focus on those things. Monday night is a good time for us to just work on those goals. And usually you're working, so it's just me and Abby doing this together. And I just love the goals that a 9-year-old sets. So one of the goals that she set for herself was to do the splits, right? And I love that. I just love that. Because she really wants to be able to do the splits. And she's been working at it, and she's actually made some good progress. She did ballet last year, and so she's seen other girls in her class that are able to do the splits, and she really wants to be able to do the splits. And so she set that as a goal for herself. Like, I'm going to learn how to do the splits. And so we broke it up into like smaller goals. And so one of the things that she's challenged herself to do is to every day she's set I think 15 minutes aside to stretch, right? She's just like focusing on like doing the splits. I just love this. But she noticed early on that she was forgetting to do the splits, to do her stretches. And so I suggested that she make a sign. I was like, I think it'd really help if you made a sign. You can put it up in your room so that when you wake up, you'll see it. And you're like, okay, I'm going to do my stretches. And she wanted help making the sign, just like with spelling. And initially she wrote down, don't forget to stretch. That's what she wrote on the piece of paper. And then we had a conversation, kind of a follow-up to a conversation we had a couple weeks earlier about positive language versus negative language. And you can say the same thing in a more positive way, right? So here she's saying, don't forget to stretch, right? And that's fine, but that word don't kind of has a negative connotation to it. And so we brainstormed some more positive ways that she could say what she wants to do. And what we came up with was remember to stretch, right? Just remember to stretch. It's more positive than don't forget to stretch. And I think about, even when you're running an endurance race, like a marathon or a triathlon or whatever, right? The language, like it's more of a mental game than anything else. And so the things that you say to yourself really have a huge impact, right? If I'm saying to myself, trying to think of an example,
like
right?
don't give up or
yeah,
something.
like don't give up.
Yeah, instead say keep going.
Yeah, it's like don't give up. It's like, well, there's so like don't is a negative word, and then like give up, right? You're saying give up over and over. Give up, give up, give up, right? It's don't give up, and so it just plays out in your head over and over again.
You're like, oh, maybe I'll give up.
Whereas if you said like you're strong, you can keep going, keep going, you've got this, right? So just like changing that language. Just how we communicate to our clients is so key, and how we communicate to ourselves, right? Because I think we're our worst critics, and so I think about like so right now I'm working on this bookkeeping course, and I've set some pretty ambitious goals. I want to be able to have this course ready in a couple months, and I'm a professional accountant. I know how to bookkeep. Like this is easy for me. But I still like, I just have these moments where I think to myself, like, maybe I'm not good enough to be able to like actually teach this course, when in reality, like that's so not true. Like I have so much experience as a professional accountant, as a bookkeeper, as a, working with RMTs, like I understand the profession. And so sometimes I have to tell myself, like when those thoughts creep in and I think like, I don't know if I can do this, right? Like, how am I going to be able to communicate this, this technical piece of information in a way that's going to make sense to someone who's not an accountant, right? And so sometimes I'm hard on myself, but then I have to remind myself, like, no, you can do this, right? And you work at it, and great things can happen. Anyways, I kind of hijacked the discussion there, but I think it's just something I wanted to add. And so, language is important. Going back to what you said before.
Yeah, it really is. And I like that bit about self-talk. I know for myself as a massage therapist, I sometimes get into that rut of just like, oh, hopefully I'm like helping my clients enough. And like, when someone doesn't rebook, you like worry that, they hated the massage or whatever. And it's like, we need to talk positively to ourselves. I know you've gotten after me before for not talking positively to myself. You're like, you need to be nicer to yourself.
Yeah, what happened? There was something that happened the other day.
Oh, I said, I'm a terrible mom. The kids were like terrible one day. They're just like, it was bad. Just screaming and yelling and fighting. And I was like, that's it. I'm the worst mom, I guess.
Yeah.
And you're like, don't talk to yourself.
Yeah, I really got after you because Abby was able to hear you say that.
Right.
And Abby's our oldest, the 9-year-old, the one that's trying to learn how to do the splits. She sometimes do that. And it's like, you're not setting a good example for her. Right? Because if she hears you say, I suck, I'm the worst, I'm not great at this, right? Then you're giving her license to say the same things about herself. Right? And whereas, you need to speak kindly to yourself. Right? Yeah, maybe you're not the best massage therapist, and that's totally fine. Or maybe some days where you're not the best mom, right?
Okay, but like, how can you twist that then? Because I think it's still fair to, again, acknowledging my experience. So that day I felt like I had not been doing well, right? Like, so by you saying, just talk positively to yourself, you're brushing off my experience. So what can we do? Like, how can you talk kinder to me, and how can I talk kinder to myself?
Hopefully I can articulate this well. So I have a friend who lives in Maui, and he's built a really successful business, and I just love this guy. I love following him. He's been able to be very successful at what he does. Anyways, I remember there was a podcast episode that he had done, or something that he had posted on Instagram. He was sharing a story about exactly this, right? Like how I think he was sharing a story about how he had gone golfing with a friend, and he had missed an easy putt, and right away, he started saying to himself, like, I'm the worst. Like, I suck at golf. Like, I am terrible at this. Like, I got the worst shorthand game than anybody else, right? And then he noticed that his friend, who's actually a very good golfer, he too missed an easy putt, and the language was very different. He said, I'm trying to recall exactly what he had said, but I think what he had said was, that's not like me, right? That's not like me, right? Or I can do better than this. Mm-hmm. Right? So again, that positive language, like I can do better, right? That's not like me, right? Like, and so I think that there's this, you take this time to look inside yourself and to say, okay, today was a hard day, right? There were some things that really didn't go well for me as a mom. And that's not like me, because, I think about all these other days where things do go well. And so, what was it about today that just really threw things off? And I think it helps to kind of acknowledge those pitfalls, whatever they may be, right? Like, I can't think of exactly what it may be. Like, maybe you were just like, you didn't get enough sleep last night, and so you're really stressed, and so you were just like, not as patient with the kids as you normally are, whatever, right? So just kind of taking some time to reflect on why it is you're feeling these things and going through the this experience, and then learning from that, as opposed to just like immediately jumping to this conclusion that you're a terrible mom, or that you suck at golf, or that you're not a good therapist, or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that's how you should talk to yourself. That's how you should approach these moments, right? Like, still acknowledge it for what it is. Like, today was a hard day. Mm-hmm. I felt like I wasn't a very good mom. Why is that, right? What could I have done differently, right? As opposed to just like jumping to this conclusion that I suck, right? Because that's not helpful. Right. But it is helpful to acknowledge the fact that today was rough. What happened? What can I learn?
Yeah, because I'm not a huge fan of just like throwing things under the rug, because nothing is solved by doing that. No. Right? And you're also putting your emotions under the rug, and then that's always comes creeping back out later.
Yeah.
So you need to look at it for face value. But yeah, I agree. Our language around that really matters. And yeah, I like that about like, I can do better. And still just saying like, that was hard. Like, this experience was hard. I like that. Yeah.
I mean, kind of a throwback to what we were talking about at the beginning, marriage counseling. We haven't done marriage counseling, but like I've seen a therapist, right? There have been challenging things that I've had to deal with in my life, and that was one of the things that my therapist really talked to me about, right? Taking time to experience, like to kind of allow yourself to feel these hard things, and to ask yourself, like, why am I feeling this? Why am I going through this experience? And what can I learn from it? Rather than just like brushing it under the rug, like burying all these problems. And then you eventually become so overwhelmed and burdened by all of these emotions that you've just suppressed.
Yeah.
Right? And I mean, it's never good to do that.
Yeah.
Anyways, I feel like I've shared too much. I think everyone should go for therapy. It's great.
Yeah.
Right? It's just nice to be able to like talk to someone, to, Maybe this is therapy for people, right? Like, I think we've covered a lot of really useful information.
Somehow this turned into a therapy session.
Yeah.
I love it.
But I mean, it goes back to what you were talking about at the beginning, right? Like, here you had this person that was hit by a car, right? I'm sure he had never been hit by a car, right? Mm-hmm. You never expect that anything like that is ever going to happen, right? And so taking the time to like acknowledge the fact that this person has just been through something traumatic. I should acknowledge their pain, because they're probably hurting right now.
Yeah.
Not only physically, but also just like emotionally. Like, they're experiencing a lot of things. And so you really have to, communicate that you care about that person.
Yeah. Yeah. And every client that walks in through our door, they're probably going through something, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, right?
Oh, everything.
And we need to be as supportive as we can to those people, and not bury their things under a rug, right? Yeah. Not that we can't become, counselors ourselves, but we acknowledge what they're going through and let them know that we're there to help and support them.
Right. Yeah, I love, there was a very wise person that once said, that if you assume, whenever you meet someone, if you assume that that person is going through a really traumatic experience or something really hard, like if you treat that person like they're going through a tremendous amount of pain, there's a more than 50% chance that you'll be right. Like just assume that everyone is fighting a battle that you don't know anything about. Right? And that's why we should be kind to people. Right? Like, yeah. So important.
So important. Yeah. Never let a problem to be solved become more important than a person to be cared for.
Yeah.
That's
100%.
key.
Okay. Anything else you wanted to say?
No.
No? It's been good?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I just love recording these podcasts. So we do this. We usually do it every Sunday in the evening if we're able to, if we're not too tired. So you can find us at onlinewellness.ca. We have courses for registered massage therapists. We have 2 courses that we have a lot of courses that we're currently working on. 2 courses that we just finished recording. One about starting a home-based business, and then another on range of motion. And then I have my bookkeeping course, which is going to be in person, mainly because I don't think a course like that can really be done well online. Like, you need to be in a classroom where you can ask questions and we can work through these problems together. Like, it just doesn't make sense, so that we can actually get you set up. Anyways, and then you're working on some other courses, a pediatric course and a TMJ course. These things always take longer than than you think.
It'll come out soon. Yeah. It's 5 years later.
Yeah, I think we have some courses on our website, and it's said that
it's coming soon.
It's coming soon. It's been coming soon for over a year.
Yeah. No, but it's always good to join our mailing list, and then we can let you know when they actually are going to be launched.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, join the mailing list, plus you get a coupon code for a discount off of your first course. So
yeah. And you can find us on Facebook at Online Wellness, and then Instagram. That's primarily where we live. Yeah, Online Wellness Institute is our handle on Instagram. Right. And then if there's anything that we guys if there's anything that you guys would love us to talk about or hear about, or just any feedback that you have, we'd love to hear from you. We love connecting with people and just getting to know people who in the massage profession, and any way that we can help out. So please reach out. You can reach us by email at support@onlinewellness.ca. See ya. Bye.